Thank you so much for joining us, Trish. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share some insights with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First question, I find everyone who's in this space has a unique story of how they got into this space. So would you mind sharing yours?
Yeah, I spent about 23 years in the world of education, special education, teaching. Most of that time was in the public school. I had about 4 years of it was in the private school. Went through some life changes and made a move. And when I came back, I said, it's time to do something different. And I ended up working for a pretty large company that provided ABA therapy. And honestly, I had no idea what ABA therapy was. And I really wasn't trained. I think that they were so happy that I had the special education background. And
Mhm.
here I was with my supervisor in somebody's home, meeting them, and here's your client, and off you go. And from there, was able to get some good supervision after I started there and really got to learn what this world was. And that's where I got interested. And that's when I decided to go back to school
Wow.
and take this in a different direction. I just didn't want to get back in the classroom.
Yeah, which makes sense, which makes sense. I mean, 23 years doing anything is a
Yeah.
long time, and I think I'd be bored of it personally, even if I loved it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally get it. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's cool that you were able to start with so much experience. I feel like most people that start in the ABA space are starting fresh from school. They haven't had any real world experience or very little, like real teaching experience or experience with kids. And it's very cool. It puts you in a unique position, I think.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate about that. And the private school teaching I did was a school for kids on the spectrum. And the person who is the owner of that school provided me with all of my supervision when I was going through the process to become a, a behavior analyst. So
Mhm.
I feel really fortunate. I got some phenomenal experience there.
Absolutely. Real world experience and also examples.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've led both on the clinical side and now on the organizational side. What's one kind of unconventional approach that you teach or use that really helps either your teams or your clients succeed faster and hit their goals faster?
I don't know how unique this is. When I say we, I have a business partner. So we are a small company and we are very, very much dedicated to personal care, if you will. We want to know our families, we want to know our clients, we want to know all of them and really work on what is significant for the family, what's significant for the client. So I don't know that that's anything earth shattering, but we're small enough that my partner and I both have our own caseloads of kids that we work with, and we kind of oversee everybody else with kind of a hands off approach, if you will,
Mhm.
because we're pretty particular about who we hire and we're not interested in babysitting,
Micromanaging.
So we've really, I feel super fortunate that my path has led me here because this is working with the families on things that really matter to them
Yeah.
is what's really important to me. And I think that's a different atmosphere maybe than with a bigger company.
Yeah.
I think bigger companies, although they have the ability to reach a lot of people, I feel like they lose a little bit of that personal touch. And that personal
Absolutely.
touch is what's important to myself and my business partner.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I think that's not so uncommon of an ambition. I think it's very uncommon to actually be practice in this space because I feel like so many organizations are trying to grow so fast, trying to scale so quickly that they don't really have the time and energy needed to individually learn every family, every need, every goal, which is it's a cool way to do it. So as a leader that has a lot of experience in this space, both on special education and specifically in the ABA, what's one kind of key mindset shift that you believe leaders need to take when trying to navigate the kind of unique management in this space?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask me that is that it's important to meet people where they are. People are ready to change when they're ready to change. And I'm not sure if you're talking about with my employees or with the families that we work with, but kind of either way, I think it's important to meet people where they are. Yeah. And to share values and goals.
Mm,
One thing I've had to learn in working with families is that because I value something doesn't mean they value something, and
Yeah.
I have to be able to let go of some of that stuff, and that's hard. It
Yeah.
was a hard mind shift for me, but
Absolutely.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just gonna all be frustrated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think that is probably one of the hardest things for a lot of leaders, especially to understand, is that their team is not motivated by the same things that motivate them.
Right.
I see that a lot. A lot of CEOs, executives, owners of clinics or practices really struggle with that because they assume that their team is motivated by the same three items that motivate them in that same order. And that is whatever time, money, and impact, or impact, time, and money, or however that order is. And they're like, that must be the same. And it is not.
It is not the same. And that's a basic principle of behavior right there. That's how we get behavior change.
Yep.
So that motivation, that finding out what people actually want, what's important to them, their values, that's that's key, I think.
Absolutely. Well, and I think we forget that, right? We use
Yep.
ABA or behavioral based practices daily, and yet we still forget how to use it when it comes to basic leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are a marketing specialist group that works with ABA. So we always had to ask some marketing questions. You're in a pretty competitive space. How does your team go about gaining new clients, and what really works best for you right now?
We have never really done anything but word of mouth.
Yeah.
From day one, that's how we got clients. From
Wow.
day one, literally, it was word of mouth. We're not, we have relationships with, insurance companies that we carry, and there's certain key people that we speak to that
Nice.
can refer to us. But the majority of our clients have come because this person knows somebody and they know, they had somebody, it's just that trickle down effect. We've experienced somebody in one situation and somebody else, that spider web kind of effect. So really
Yeah.
that's all we do.
That's awesome.
We have some basic social media stuff going on, but nothing extravagant.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's the best way to grow, at least at first, for almost all organizations. I think a lot of people jump into, I don't know what you would call it, like official marketing work too soon, and that ends up hurting often because you focus more on the marketing than the actual execution, which matters so much more, especially early on.
My business partner and she really, from the very beginning, when we first started this company, which has been almost 5 years ago, she was adamant that that first year was just she and I, so that we could really learn the
Yeah.
ins and outs of running the company and dealing with all the things that go along with that. And from there, we've had people join us really one by one, and we have not sought those folks out. They've
Yeah.
come to us, and we don't have this is I know that this isn't a very good business mentality, but
Yeah.
we don't have like desires to be huge. She and I have 7 people and part-time and full-time capacity, a
Mhm.
variety of that. And we're good with that. We would be okay if it was more, we would be okay if it was less. Like we
Yeah.
just want quality people. That's what's most important to us. It gets frustrating sometimes to have to turn down families because
Absolutely.
there's so many families that are in need.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we can only do so much. Like we just want to do the best with what we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that ends up probably with you getting a lot of value in terms of work-life balance for yourself as
Yeah.
owner, as opposed to just frantically growing all the time.
Right, right, right.
That's
And I
awesome.
couldn't do it without my partner. Like
I'm
I
sure.
could not do it without her. So she's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So then last kind of marketing question is, what's one kind of marketing technique or tactic that you're either considering using or that you're just really watching really closely in the marketplace? Because I'm sure you're watching other marketing from other ABA groups all the time.
Yeah. We live in an area that has a lot of smaller ABA companies, and we're all pretty tight, actually. We are all helping each other, communicating back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
But as far as, what are we looking at? I think the thing that everybody is talking about right now is AI. And how can we use that to build our resources, help us with fresh ideas, that type of
Yeah.
thing. You almost can't help but think about that and kind of explore that. And so we've got some folks on our team that are pretty interested in that type of thing. But we also it's important to us to stay involved in our community. And there's several organizations in our community that we like to stay active in because our clients are active, and so we like to show up and volunteer and help and do those types of things, and that's really what's kind of the most important to us. Again, it's being there for the families. It's being there because the families are there, and it's hard for them sometimes to be there, and it's all they've got. They're giving it all they have to participate in this event for their child, and if we can help, and quite honestly, I don't do enough of it. It usually falls on the weekends,
Yeah.
but we try. We try as a team,
Yeah.
and I think we're pretty successful with it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think all, in my opinion, all good marketing needs to be built from good kind of grassroots efforts, like
Yeah.
actually helping with events and actually helping families publicly, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think it's hard to figure out how to execute those grassroots things because they can be massively expensive in terms of man hours and time and energy.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Trish. We appreciate you joining. We appreciate the work you're doing for your community. I know it is desperately needed, and you are in a population that is underserved. So thank you for what you and your team are doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.